President Donald Trump is now weighing in after Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene announced her resignation from Congress Friday night. This comes after a very public fallout with President Trump over the vote to release the Epstein files. The Georgia representative spent 5 years in Congress and was once one of Trump's biggest supporters. The president responded with a post on Truth Social calling her a traitor. He suggested this morning when speaking with reporters that she could not survive a primary challenge.
Okay, so this is absolutely insane. And I'm not being hyperbolic when I say this might be one of the most dramatic moments we've seen in politics in a very long time. On January 10th, 2026, Democrats in the House of Representatives basically walked up to the plate and swung for the fences. They advanced impeachment articles against President Trump, not as some distant possibility, not as some threat they were considering. They actually did it. They actually moved impeachment forward, and they did it fast, like really fast. This is a huge deal because impeachment is supposed to be this rare, serious thing that only happens when something truly extraordinary happens. And now we're looking at a situation where Democrats are saying that Trump's actions warrant impeachment charges.
I said, go your own way. And once I left her, she resigned because she would never have survived a primary. But I think she's a nice person.
Representative Greene's last day in Congress will be January 5th, 2026.
Here's what sparked this entire thing. Trump authorized a military raid in Venezuela, not a sanctioned congressional approved military operation, but a raid that went down without congressional authorization. And that raid killed 12 civilians. According to a UN report, 12 innocent people died in this operation. That's real blood. That's real loss of life. And according to Democrats and the groups pushing for impeachment, Trump violated international law by ordering this without getting congressional approval first. He bypassed Congress. He bypassed the normal checks and balances. He just decided to send military forces into Venezuela, and people died as a result. Representative Al Green from Texas led this effort. He got 140 plus House Democrats to sign on to impeachment articles. That's a huge number. That's a massive coalition of Democrats all saying the same thing at the same time. This is constitutional overreach. This is war-mongering. This is exactly the kind of thing that the Constitution is supposed to prevent. The president can't just unilaterally wage war without Congress. That's not how it works. That's not what the Constitution allows. And yet, that's apparently what happened with this Venezuela raid. And Trump's response, he went on Truth Social and called it a Democrat hoax. He said it's a witch hunt. He's claiming that the impeachment push is just partisan politics and that Republicans aren't going to let it go anywhere. But here's the thing that's interesting. Trump had actually predicted this would happen. Back on January 6th at a GOP retreat, Trump said if the Democrats take the House in the midterms, they'll impeach him faster than he can say hoax. He basically called his shot. He said this is going to happen. And then when it actually did happen, he tried to act like it was a surprise. The timing of this is wild. We're early in Trump's second term. We're only about a week into January 2026. And already we're dealing with impeachment articles advancing through the House. This is not how things are supposed to go in a normal presidency. A normal president, you don't see impeachment articles being seriously advanced this early in a term. You don't see 140 representatives all signing on to articles together. Something is clearly wrong. Something is clearly going off the rails in a serious way. The Venezuela raid is the catalyst, but it's not the only thing. The impeachment articles also reference emoluments, obstruction of Congress, and other Trump actions that Democrats have issues with. But Venezuela is the main thing. Venezuela is what's making this viable. Venezuela is what gives Democrats the ammunition to say this is serious and this warrants impeachment because it involves military force. It involves loss of life. It involves the president apparently exceeding his constitutional authority in a way that killed innocent people. Now, I need to be clear about something. Impeachment is a political process, not a legal one. The House can impeach for whatever reason they want. There's no specific crime that has to be committed. Impeachment is about the House deciding that the president has committed high crimes and misdemeanors. That's the constitutional language. And what counts as high crimes and misdemeanors is ultimately up to the House to decide. So Democrats are making the argument that Trump's unauthorized military raid in Venezuela constitutes high crimes and misdemeanors. They're making the argument that bypassing Congress and killing civilians in the process is something that warrants impeachment. The previous attempts to impeach Trump had failed. House Resolution 353 was filed back in May of 2025, and it didn't go anywhere. But this time feels different. This time, Democrats have a specific incident with a concrete body count. This time, Democrats have a UN report documenting civilian deaths. This time, Democrats can point to something tangible and say, look, this is what happened, this is wrong, and the president did it without authority. That's a stronger political position than they had before. Republicans are calling it partisan theater. Republicans are saying Democrats are just trying to hurt Trump politically. Republicans are saying this is a waste of time and that the Senate will never convict Trump anyway. And they're probably right about that last part. Conviction requires 2/3 of the Senate, and Republicans control the Senate. So even if the House impeaches Trump, the Senate is not going to convict him. Removal from office is not going to happen. But that doesn't mean impeachment doesn't matter. Impeachment still puts Trump through a trial. Impeachment still generates drama and media attention. Impeachment still damages his political standing heading into the midterms. And that's probably the real goal here. Democrats know they can't remove Trump from office with impeachment, but they can use impeachment to damage him politically. They can use impeachment to keep the story in the news cycle. They can use impeachment to energize their base by showing they're fighting Trump hard. They can use impeachment to put Republicans in an awkward position where they have to defend Trump's Venezuela raid or distance themselves from it. This is a stunning moment because it shows that impeachment, which was supposed to be this rare thing that only happens in extraordinary circumstances, is now becoming more of a normal political tool. Trump was impeached in his first term. Now he's facing impeachment in his second term. This is becoming normalized in a way that's kind of alarming when you think about it, but it's also a reflection of how polarized and divided the country has become. All right, so let's really dig into what's happening here with the impeachment push and what it means for Trump and for the country going forward, because this is a complicated situation with a lot of moving parts, and you need to understand all of them to really get what's going on. First of all, you need to understand the Venezuela raid and what actually happened there. According to a UN report released on January 8th, Trump authorized a military operation in Venezuela that resulted in the death of 12 civilians. Those are not enemy combatants. Those are not soldiers. Those are innocent people who died in this operation. That's the foundation of everything that comes after. Now, Trump presumably authorized this operation because he believed it served some national security interest. Maybe he thought it was targeting drug traffickers or terrorist organizations or people he believed were threats to the United States. But here's the thing, he didn't go to Congress first. He didn't ask for authorization. He didn't explain to Congress what he was doing or why he was doing it. He just went ahead and ordered the military to conduct this operation in a foreign country without congressional approval. That's the constitutional violation that Democrats are pointing to. The Constitution is pretty clear about this. Congress has the power to declare war. Congress has the power to authorize military operations. The president doesn't get to just unilaterally wage war without Congress. That's a fundamental check on executive power. That's something the founders specifically built into the Constitution because they were worried about kings unilaterally declaring war and using that as a way to expand their power. So when Trump authorized a military operation in Venezuela without congressional approval, he was arguably violating the Constitution. Now, presidents have been using creative interpretations of their war powers for decades. They've been conducting military operations without formal declarations of war or without getting explicit congressional authorization. But the larger the operation, the more it kills, the more it seems like it crosses the line into something that really does require congressional approval. And an operation that kills 12 civilians seems like it crosses that line. That seems like it's big enough and serious enough that you should probably get Congress on board. So Democrats took that incident and said, okay, this is serious enough to warrant impeachment. And they mobilized 140 plus House members to sign on to impeachment articles. That's a significant coalition that shows this isn't just a fringe element of the Democratic Party pushing this. This is mainstream House Democrats saying this is serious. This is a significant number of elected officials all on the same page about this. Now, what's interesting is that this isn't the first time Democrats have tried to impeach Trump. House Resolution 353 was filed back in May of 2025, and it didn't go anywhere. It didn't get enough support. It didn't advance. But this time is different because there's a specific incident with the body count. There's a UN report documenting what happened. There's concrete evidence that civilians died, and that changes the political calculation. When you're arguing for impeachment in the abstract, it's harder to get people on board. But when you can point to 12 dead civilians and say this is what happened because the president acted without congressional authority, that's a much stronger argument. That's something people can understand and grasp. That's something that makes the case for impeachment more concrete and real. And that's why this push for impeachment is gaining traction when the previous push didn't. The impeachment articles also reference other Trump actions beyond just Venezuela. They reference impeachment, which is about whether Trump is profiting from his presidency in violation violation of the Constitution. They reference obstruction of Congress, which is about Trump obstructing congressional investigations or subpoenas. They reference abuse of power in general. So it's not just about Venezuela. It's about Venezuela as the primary catalyst, but also about a pattern of conduct that Democrats believe is impeachable. But Venezuela is the main thing. Venezuela is what makes this viable politically, because it's concrete, because people died, because it's hard for Republicans to defend. You can argue about whether Trump obstructed Congress or whether he violated the Emoluments Clause. Those are more abstract concepts, but it's harder to argue that killing 12 civilians is okay or that it was constitutional. That's the strongest part of the Democratic case. Now, Trump had actually predicted this would happen at a GOP retreat on January 6th. He said if Democrats take the House in the midterms, they're going to impeach him. He said it on the record. He basically called his shot. So in a way, Trump saw this coming. He understood that if he was facing a Democratic House, they would move to impeach him. And yet, he still authorized the Venezuela operation anyway. Maybe he thought it was worth the risk. Maybe he thought it served national security interests that outweigh the political cost. Or maybe he just didn't care what the political consequences were. Either way, here we are. Impeachment articles are advancing through the House. 140 plus Democrats have signed on to them. This is becoming a real thing, not just a theoretical possibility. And now Republicans have to decide how they want to handle this. Do they defend Trump and the Venezuela operation? Do they distance themselves from it? Do they try to block the impeachment process in the House? There's no great option for Republicans here. Whatever they do, it makes them look bad to somebody. The Senate dynamics are important too. Republicans control the Senate, which means they control whether Trump gets convicted or not. Conviction requires 2/3 of the Senate, which means Republicans would need 20 Democratic votes to join them in convicting Trump. That seems very unlikely. Democrats are not going to vote to convict Trump. So even if the House impeaches, the Senate is not going to remove him. Trump is going to survive impeachment just like he did in his first term. But that doesn't mean impeachment doesn't matter. Impeachment is still going to be a huge story. It's still going to dominate the news cycle for weeks. It's still going to damage Trump's political standing. It's still going to energize Democratic voters by showing them that Democrats are willing to fight Trump. It's still going to hurt Republicans because they're going to have to defend Trump during the midterms, while Democrats are running ads about how Republicans are defending a president who killed civilians without congressional authorization. That's the political calculation here. Democrats might not be able to remove Trump through impeachment, but they can use impeachment to damage him politically. They can use impeachment as a cudgel in the 2026 midterm elections. They can use it to remind voters why they should vote Democratic. That's probably the real goal. It's not about removal. It's about political advantage. The broader question here is whether impeachment is becoming normalized in a way that's bad for the country. We've now had 2 impeachments of Trump in consecutive terms. Are we moving to a situation where every president who faces an opposition Congress gets impeached? Are we moving to a situation where impeachment becomes just another political tool that both parties use against each other? That's a concerning trend if it's happening. But on the other hand, impeachment is supposed to be a check on executive power. Impeachment is supposed to be available when a president exceeds his authority in serious ways. In the Venezuela operation, an unauthorized military raid that kills civilians, that does seem like something that crosses the line. That does seem like something that warrants at least the House bringing impeachment articles. So maybe this is the system working as intended. Maybe this is what's supposed to happen when a president acts without authority. Okay, so let's break this down into what actually matters and what the real implications are for Trump and for the country. First point, and this is straightforward. Democrats just made a bold political move by advancing impeachment articles against Trump. 140 plus House members signed on to it. They did it fast. They did it in response to a concrete incident with a body count. 12 civilians died in the Venezuela raid, and that gave Democrats the ammunition they needed to push impeachment forward. This is a significant escalation in the political battle between Trump and the Democratic Party. This is Democrats saying, we're going to use our power in the House to challenge Trump directly. Trump's response was to call it a hoax and a witch hunt and to claim that